Well, we've had lots of stories of inspiration and success today, so just invite the Welsh woman along to bring it right down and talk about failure and capitulation. That's what happens when you bring a Welsh woman to the party. She's a bit of a party pooper. So, here we go. So, my once upon a time. What I'm going to do today for 15 minutes, and I've already warned them, they're going to probably have to rugby tackle me off the platform at 19 minutes. What I'd like to do is introduce you to my story of choking under pressure, so catastrophic performance failure under pressure. I told you it was going to be upbeat. My professional and personal story. Then we're going to just go and have a little think about all the research around the area of choking, particularly in golf, what causes it, what we can do about it. So we'll have a little digress into that. And then we're going to talk about my reflections on that body of work and my personal experiences. The talk is going to be very disjointed and a little bit dysfunctional because that actually really reflects my experiences and my life. So let's start at the beginning, shall we? There we are. It's done. So once upon a time, there was a talented golfer with an impeccable dress sense and an amazing haircut. Look, it was all the rage in the 80s. All right, just leave me be. Dressed in what was my mother's curtains that she made into my outfit. But at this point in time, I was, 12, 13 years of age, and I was destined for a life on the golf tour. I knew it, everyone knew it, that was going to be my future. As much as I'm honored to be here with you today, the fact that I'm not sitting in my multi-million-pound house in Florida suggests that something went awry, and I didn't make it on the tour, and I didn't earn all those millions. Why? Because every fairy tale, unfortunately, has the big bad wolf. For me, it was choking. I choked under pressure. So what was this? It was a total and utter capitulation of performance when it mattered. Nice. So when I played golf, even though at this stage I was, God, look how miserable I am. At this stage, I was a scratch player. I used to go out and play 2 under, 3 under. The golfers in the room will know what that's all about, yeah? I was good. I was precocious. I was talented, okay? But when it mattered, all I could do was think about hitting the golf ball, actually making contact. I would go from 3 under one day to put pressure on me. I'd be 20 over, 30 over. I would walk off the course because I'd be too embarrassed to post my score. It was catastrophic. It was seen as catastrophic by others. I began to think it was inevitable that I would fail under pressure. Others thought, and I was labelled, in Welsh terms, I'm the queen of choking, a label that I've now kind of like taken to my heart. There was no answers to me, and it kind of like stopped my progress. There was not much I could do about it. Every time I was exposed to pressure, I capitulated. So I was never chosen for the team. I played for Wales once, and that was it. So my future was kind of like ended there and then in terms of golf. So I went in to look at, I went into the world of academia then to try and find some answers. And there were 2 professors at the time doing a lot of research in the area. Professors Carr and Bylock, some very well-known people over in the States, and they were talking about, and their research and their evidence was all about this choking phenomena. And what it was just a little bit of a drop in performance, and it was caused by something called self-focus. So any drop in performance caused by self-focus equals choking. That did not resonate with me at all. Number one, it wasn't just any drop in performance, because I could do that as well. I could have a bad day, I could have a bad shot, but choking to me was something very different and very extreme. They weren't talking my language. And in terms of self-focus, without getting too technical, that is when you actually think about the technique that you're trying, the explicit components of the technique you're trying to deliver. So in terms of golf, I'm on the first tee at St Andrews, people are watching me, I really want to do well. So I think, right, just make sure that you do turn and you put your elbow here, and you do that, and you do that, and you do extend to target. That's self-focus. And that breaks down the performance because it overwhelms the working memory. Okay, fine. Nice. That didn't resonate with me either, because when I actually focused on the technique, it helped me. So my extreme experiences were really not being explained by anyone in my golfing world or by anyone in the academic world. And as a result, I became frustrated, My frustration turned to anger. My anger, hopeless, became worthless. And I'm not proud to say that I became quite self-destructive in my behavior. I also felt very alone because I couldn't share how I felt with anyone else. Who the hell would listen to me and understand why just messing up in golf would make you feel so empty? I lost my identity. It wasn't actually about losing my future on the tour. I could deal with that. What I couldn't deal with how it left me feel so empty with no esteem, no idea, no clue, no me. So I couldn't share that because no one would get it. For Christ's sake, Den, it's only a game. You know, get on with your life. You've got a brain in your head. Couldn't do it. For years, I sat on the metaphoric sofa feeling very, very sorry for myself. Nice. Told you it was an uplifting story. Luckily, for me, like any fairy tale, you get the knight and knightesses in shining armor. So loads of people came into my life at this point and beyond that enabled me to actually take control of the context rather than allowing the context and the people in that context to control me and my destiny and my future. And how they helped me was actually, in the first instance, was actually to go and find out what the hell this phenomena was that I was experiencing. Maybe to help myself as a little bit of redemption, but to make sure no one else was experiencing this as well in sport and in golf, which was my passion. So, to cut a long story short, we got on and we did some work. I did a PhD very late in life, actually. It was in my late 30s, which is not the time when most people do it, but I wanted to find out what I was experiencing. So we went out and interviewed a lot of people, surveys, research, experimental, blah, blah, blah. And absolutely, I was so delighted to find out that choking indeed was a distinct performance failure along the continuum of failures. So we can have a bad day, a bad performance, but choke is right down the other end. It's very acute, it's very significant. Now we were able to identify that choke. We were able to understand it a little bit more. So we do know that self-focus is the cause of some people who choke, but actually most people choke, particularly in golf, through distraction. So that is being there in the moment, thinking about something other than what you should be. The consequences of failure, even consequences of success, even what's for tea. Anything other than what you're doing. And when you're anxious, that overwhelms the working memory again, and that causes choking under pressure. Great, so that's lovely. And because of that understanding, we were able to kind of like start to take control and do something about it. I'm going to go and have a little divergent here and have a little tangent. Allow me this one, because what I was really, really intrigued with is about the consequences of choking. And I wanted to explore other people's experiences. And time again, we were hearing the story of choking is very difficult, but actually you can use it as a motivational trigger. Failure can be very motivating. You've just got to use it right. As a constructive learning experience, what did you do? What didn't you do? Who can help you? Where do you need to go for advice? Do you need to work any harder? What's going on here? But I did find that other people were actually using choking and failure as a very destructive experience. And this was one interview, the last interview I did of my PhD, up here in St. Andrews, as it happened. One of the pros there, who'd been choking a lot. And this is what he said to me. It's like, you know, I have nothing, I am nothing. I am nothing. I only saw myself as a golfer. I only knew myself as a golfer, and life wasn't worth living. So this guy had suicide ideation as a result of failure. And again, some of you in the room might be going, you serious? And some of you in the room might go, I get it. I got it. I walked from that interview into my car and I cried like a baby. And I cried like a baby because the first time in my life I did not feel alone. There was someone else who had shared the choking experience and had allowed failure to actually strip them so much that they didn't want to be here. Ridiculous, but true. And so that's the situation we were in. What I found lovely about this, by us all gaining a little bit more control of ourselves and our understanding, we were able to now prevent some evidence-based interventions to prevent this thing happening. Or if you did happen to choke, you could then do something about it. So again, I'm not going to tell you how to suck eggs in the room. I'm sure you appreciate that actually some cognitive behavioral strategies, they can help us perform under pressure, whatever that performance domain is. So whether it's a pre-performance routine, whether it's, self-talk, informational, motivational self-talk, whether it's a little bit of relaxation techniques, whether it's cognitive restructuring, we can use these type of strategies to change our psychological state, change how we think about the event we're doing, change how we think about ourselves, bring ourselves a little bit more control, and then we can go on and play a little bit better under the pressure. We can manage ourselves better, which is lovely, which is great. What we're finding in the choking domain is that this does help some people to a certain extent for a short period of time. So it could be absolutely what they need just to get them over the line and realize that they're capable. But this is the one, for me, that is so important. This is the third wave of psychological treatments across clinical and subclinical conditions, ACT. So it's acceptance commitment therapy. I don't know how many of you are familiar with this in the room. We obviously don't have the time to go through the underpinning theory, but gosh, it would take about 2 weeks to go through that anyway. But at the end of the day, the main principles of ACT, which I'll go into now, really just provide us with a very good explanation for why people choke under pressure in sport and elsewhere, and then what can be done about it. And this was a thing that kind of like didn't just change my career or my research or whatever, it's kind of like did change the direction of my life, I have to say. And in a nutshell, without lecturing you too much, ACT enables us to understand what psychological flexibility and inflexibility is. So in terms of inflexibility, we as human beings really don't like distress, anxiety, discomfort. So we try and move away from it a lot. And you think about it, how many times you've made a decision not to do something because, oh my God, that's too much. I wouldn't like that. I'm not going to ask that person out, excuse me, just in case they reject me. I'm not going to go for that job because I don't think I'll get it and I don't want to be humiliated. So as human beings, we do tend to withdraw away from potential distress. We rush, we get away. Or we do try and modify how we feel when we're doing that event. So in terms of golf, how many times I withdrew from an event, walked away? How many times I withdrew my name from something that I should have played in? I gave up golf for 15 years because I couldn't cope with how it made me feel. Total withdrawal. And when I did play, I was so intent on modifying how I felt and changing my anxiety that actually my life was passing me by there. So instead of in the moment hitting the golf ball to where I knew I needed to go to, I was doing alligator roll with my anxiety. And ACT teaches you to free yourself of this. That doesn't help you. It don't help you at all because you're distracted and you're focusing and put your energy all into the wrong thing. And everything passes you by as a result. So ACT enables us to think, right, this is how we get on, whether you're playing golf or in life, is, let's focus on what it is you want to do right here, right now, in order to walk on your pathway and towards your goals. But most importantly, think about how you want to walk on that pathway. Who are you? And the theme that's come through today from everything I've heard is this thing called authenticity. Be yourself. How many times, particularly in sport, have you been told to behave in a certain way and do a certain thing because that's what's going to make you successful, even though it's incongruent with who you are? We need to be delivering our value-based behavior. Who am I? I'm Welsh. I got Hoyle. I'm passionate, sometimes a little aggressive. I really think I'm funny. No one else does. I'm a performer. I like to educate. I like to share. All of those things were squeezed the hell out of me when I played golf because I was meant to behave in a way that was deemed to bring about success. Quiet, controlled, meticulous. Well, that ain't me. Patient. That ain't me. I had no chance. Absolutely no chance. So we do need to stay in the moment to moment, deliver our value-based behavior, and work along our difficult feelings because they ain't the problem, we are. And I look back at my life, and I look back at golf, and then I look back at other domains in my life, and this explains me, And as we've gone through our research and explored failure across sport, across domains, psychological inflexibility explains most of those behaviours. And so we're really seeing some fruitful outcomes as a result of apply and act within our sporting domains. So I don't know if you have any take-home messages from this speech. Maybe not, that's fine. It may be that something has resonated and something hasn't. But for sure, my take-home message, and feel free to take your own, is that every pathway you can experience positive growth on your own, with your own reflection, but it's a hell of a lot more fun and a hell of a lot more efficient if you do it with others. You share your experiences, you use their expertise, you lean on each other. You allow each other to be authentic and you encourage each other to deliver your value-based behaviors. And then you nail it. And you think about what it is your pathway is. And what is it that you want to achieve, but most importantly, how do you want to achieve it? Who are you? What do you want to be remembered as? What kind of behaviors are really true to yourself? If someone stands up and does your obituary, what do you want them to be saying about you? So, and be honest with yourself. Do your decisions that you're having before and now, do they reflect those values? And do you make decisions to avoid feeling uncomfortable and avoid distress? Distress is not the problem. Please do not allow the context to determine your outcome as it did for me for several years. Do not allow people in that context to determine your outcome as I did for many years. Embrace distress, embrace each other, and work towards your goal on your pathway in the way that fits your authenticity. Thank you very much for your time.